Hello folks, welcome to another Darktable Landscapes video. In this one we're going to be dealing with a very high contrast scene. You can see that we're shooting directly into the sun on a misty morning in the Lake District, and we need to pull this detail out of the shadows without blowing the highlights out too crazily. So let's get going. So we'll start with the basics first, of course. We'll think we will do lens correction. I imagine shooting into the sun like this, we do have some chromatic aberration as well. The lens correction has done a pretty good job of removing that, but there are a few little patches of purple and blue, so we'll do chromatic aberration as well. That should do a pretty good job. Yeah, that's fine. And now we'll look at exposure. So obviously I don't really want to touch this. It's as bright as it can get. Technically it's not clipping, but for all intents and purposes it's clipped. So let's go for exposure. And so if we turn that off, we can see what it's already doing. I want to boost the exposure everywhere but here. So I'll grab another instance and we'll use an elliptical mask. Something like that. And at the moment we're selecting inside, so we'll flip using the reverse polarity button, and then we can start adjusting our exposure. So I'll probably bring this in. I'd like to get a little bit more detail in this tree here, the main kind of focus really. And we'll add some feathering so it's a nice natural fade out. Push it quite a lot because we can then pull it around with our contrast adjustments. Do quite a small effect actually. Let's pull this right in and then feather it heavily. There we go. That's more like it. So now we can see what we're doing. Let's check the chromatic aberration again. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do our white balance. So color cal. See what the automatic comes up with the eyedropper here. That's not bad at all. Maybe slightly warmer because we're on a nice autumn morning. Some golden light. Yeah, it's pretty good. And that needs a crop. There's not much going on in this corner. It's pretty empty. So if in doubt, leave it out. Based on that principle, we'll put this tree right on this third line here. See how that looks once it's properly cropped. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine, I think. Now we'll start working the contrast. So color balance RGB. And then we can introduce quite a lot of vibrance to this. We'll give it some color. Contrast is plenty already. Let's go for some overall chroma as well. Usual stepped saturation. And let's see how we're going to deal with these. I'll maybe lift the shadows. I don't want to touch the highlights at all. If I drop them too much, you'll start to see that this section in the middle here just starts to look kind of grey and unnatural. So maybe a slight drop. But, you know, we're shooting into the sun. It's going to be bright. So let's keep it bright. Raise our midtones and drop them and see what happens. Yeah, dropping the midtones works quite nicely. Pulls out a little bit of detail here in the mist. And let's actually do some split toning while we're here. So cool shadows. Just go slight towards more purple. And then just a hint of colour in the highlights and the midtones just to emphasize that warmth. Okay, now I actually want to enhance this misty feeling. So let's go for haze removal, somewhat counterintuitively. But of course, if you do negative haze removal, then you in fact increase the haze. So let's do that. It's a little too much. So we don't want the haze everywhere, certainly not close to the camera. We're kind of out of the mist here in the foreground. So let's use another drawn mask. We'll do an ellipse. It's going to be bigger than the last one. Roll in the feathering a little bit. And we probably actually want drawn and parametric. So we want to remove these trees from that haze. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit and then drag it back just to make it look a little bit more natural. Go for a slightly higher strength. As always, once you've masked something, you can generally push it a little bit more. Let's check where this mask's going. Yeah, that's probably about right. There we go. And just to further enhance that, let's go for diffuse or sharpen, which is already here because it kind of has a dehaze preset, I think. And we'll pop on the bloom preset. So just right clicking here in the module bar. And zoom out again, that's fine. So obviously that's kind of a crazy effect. So let's mask it. Here we are. Just use a uniform mask this time and let's flip it to addition to give it some brightness, but then we'll drag it right down. Let's say 20% for argument's sake. There we are. It's given a bit of glow essentially to the fog, to the mist. And let's see what we can do. These trees are almost too well lit here. They kind of look slightly unnatural. So let's drop them down with a tone equalizer. Oops, that's if I can type. There we go. And we'll mask. So masking tab and then click the magic once to set the mask for the tones correctly throughout that. And now we can zoom back out again. And let's darken these ones down. So we'll just hover our mouse over what we want to adjust and roll the wheel. There we go, just increasing contrast a bit. Without hopefully losing too much detail. I think we could probably crop this out. This corner's a bit bright. Let's go back to our crop. That's better. Okay. And although the leaves look quite green, this was kind of an autumn morning. It was September. These leaves were starting to change a little more. I want to emphasize that. So I'm going to go for color equalizer. And let's see what color we're getting. So if I control and click on the eyedropper here and then drag into this area, we're probably picking up slightly too much of a thing there. So it's essentially these greens. Let's see what the single picker picks out. Yeah, well, we're more or less bang on that node, so that's perfect. So I'm going to drag these down to make them more of an autumnally brown. But naturally we're affecting everything, so the green moss and all that kind of thing is also changing to brown. I'm going to drop the saturation a little bit as well so it doesn't look too unnatural. There we go. And so we need to mask this. So we use a drawn mask with a gradient, should do the trick. Quite a big gradient. There we go. Give it some curve. So now our trees are kind of a nice autumnal brown, but things like moss, which don't go brown in the winter, are more natural. And again, we can, once we've masked, we can push it a little bit more. Okay. And now I want to emphasize the light falling on this moss here. So what's the best way to go? We'll do another instance of color balance RGB and we'll use a drawn mask. Might use drawn and parametric, so just in case I'll choose that first. We just want to kind of accentuate this area here where the light's falling nicely on the foreground. And we'll pop the highlights up. Not worry too much about this just yet. We can adjust that afterwards. And maybe a little bit more color in the highlights as well. Let's pull that in pull this into, increase the feather. And I want to exclude the darker areas again, so we're not kind of artificially raising things in areas that shouldn't be raised. There we go. Okay, and I think what we need is quite a lot of vignetting just to kind of give a bit more mystery and to give some more depth as well. So let's grab another exposure module and another draw mask, another ellipse. Let's make it something like that. Let's see how we go. Flip that round and drop exposure. Bit some more feathering just to ease it a little bit, but pull the internal feathering in. Don't want to darken these leaves too much. And turn off the preview. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Let's add a touch of clarity, so contrast equalizer. And we'll roll our mouse wheel nice and big downwards and then just pull up a little bit. Just to pull out a little bit of detail through the mist without reducing the mistiness. And some sharpening, so we'll go diffuse and sharpen again. Right click for a new instance. Right click again and let's go lens deep blur medium. And there we are, some nice sharpness. And I think we're pretty much done. So let's have a look at the before and after. So here we go. Before quite dark and relatively green and flat. We've really given it some autumnal colour and drama. Fix the chromatic aberration that's always going to happen when you're shooting directly into a sun on a very kind of high contrast kind of situation. So there we go, another finished image. Hope you like this one. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one.